When the two socialites joined forces to ground a plane, everyone thought it was for me. The tabloids were having a field day. Who will the Kane family heir choose this time? His childhood sweetheart or the new girl? It's just so hard. Frankly, in this situation, the three of you are better off together. The comments section blew up. People were actually shipping us as a throuple, flooding my feed with their blessings. That is, until they carefully helped a strange boy walk out of the cabin. At the same time, I posted a picture of a wedding invitation online, tagging the son of my family's housekeeper, Howard. My caption read, "Whatever drama you're cooking up has nothing to do with me." I posted it, and it shot straight to the top of the trending list. Netizens dug into Howard's account and discovered that for the past year, all his posts had involved Linda and Jessica, the three of them on dates, traveling together. Him on the sidelines cheering them on at a game. There was even a photo from a fundraiser for the animal rescue I sponsored, with him standing front and center, his arms around both Linda and Jessica. He had completely taken my place. The internet was confused. Wait, aren't Linda and Jessica both going after the Kane heir? Didn't they almost get in a fistfight over a dance at a ball last year? Am I out of the loop? Did our dream guy get married and they found a replacement? Am I the only one wondering who this Howard guy is? I've never heard of him in our circles. That last comment had the most likes. I saw it, and my fingers froze over the screen. My mind drifted back to the first time Howard came to my house. He was 16, wearing a faded old shirt, standing obediently behind our housekeeper, Mr. Lee. He followed Mr. Lee's lead, timidly calling me Mr. Leo. Mr. Lee explained that floods back home had destroyed everything. His son had nowhere else to go, so he'd come to him. He begged me to let him stay. I agreed. I felt sorry for him, growing up poor, so I took care of him. I gave him a room, sponsored his tuition at the local university, and even brought him along when Linda, Jessica, and I went out. But eventually, our 4-person outings became 3-person dates, and I grew more and more distant from them. When did it start? Maybe it was when I found out Howard had been stealing my watches, one after another. When I'd had enough and was about to punish him, Linda and Jessica defended him, refusing to see right from wrong. Or maybe it was at my 18th birthday party, when they convinced all the guests to sing happy birthday to Howard. Every time they had an excuse. Howard's had such a hard life. He's never seen such nice things before. Leo, you've had everything handed to you on a silver platter. You don't lack for anything, so why get so worked up over it? Exactly. Howard's had it rough. We just wanted to make it up to him, give him a taste of the good life. They were in perfect sync, as if my being upset was just me throwing a tantrum. In the end, they'd always toss out the final blow. Besides, Leo, you're the one who introduced Howard to us. How can you be so petty with him now? I grew more and more disappointed in them, until 3 months ago when they invited me hiking. A sudden storm hit, and they left with Howard, abandoning me again. I had a heart attack and almost died on that mountain. When my parents found out, they were furious. They fired Mr. Lee and sent Howard packing. The girls were livid. They stormed into my hospital room, calling me sinister and cruel, threatening to cut me off for good if I didn't take it back. What does this have to do with Howard? You're just jealous that we're nice to him. Leo Kane, when did you become so malicious? Linda accused me. Jessica stood beside her, spitting threats. Leo, Howard has been miserable for days because of what you did. You're going to come with me right now and apologize to him. If you don't, I'm never speaking to you again. In that moment, I saw a reflection in their eyes, the same look they used to reserve only for me. A 6-year-old Linda, holding my hand, promising she'd always be by my side. A 15-year-old Jessica, pinning me against a wall, telling me I was the only one she'd ever want. But now they had both broken their promises. That day, I blocked their numbers right in front of them. The next day, I agreed to the arranged date my parents had set up for me. For the next 3 months, I had no contact with Linda or Jessica, but Howard kept trying to reach me. He apologized. He knelt at my front door, his eyes red, begging for my forgiveness. Mr. Kane, I'm so sorry. It was all my fault that day. I shouldn't have sprained my ankle. After Linda and Jessica got me down the mountain, I told them to go back for you right away. But they said they were too worried about me. Mr. Kane, don't worry. Linda and Jessica are yours. I know my place. I'll leave LA as soon as possible. Mr. Kane, my dad and I are grateful people. I would never do anything to betray you. He swore up and down. The night before he left the country, he even sent me a picture of his plane ticket, promising he would never come back and asking me to keep it a secret. But today, on the account the internet had unearthed, I saw his latest post. It was that same plane ticket he'd sent me, with all the flight information completely uncensored. The caption read, "I don't want to hurt anyone, so I chose to sacrifice myself. You know, it's true what they say. Sometimes, when you're truly speechless, all you can do is laugh." That evening, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I opened it to see our old club's group chat, usually dead, now flooded with messages. I glanced through them and saw that Linda had added Howard to the group. Jessica was spamming the chat with digital red envelopes full of cash. Howard may not be in our club, but we all go to the same school. From now on, he joins all our activities. I'm covering his share. Does he need you to pay? I'm the one who invited him. Of course, I'll take care of him, Linda retorted, sending her own stream of cash gifts. This was our hiking club group chat. The members were all rich or well-connected, and the barrier to entry was extremely high. Howard had joined us once or twice wearing my old gear, but he'd never been qualified to join the group. Now, spurred on by Linda and Jessica's generosity, someone spoke up. "So you two have Howard covered. Who's looking out for the heir?" Someone tagged me. Instantly, the cash stopped flowing. Linda and Jessica went silent. 2 minutes later, a soft-spoken voice message from Howard appeared in the chat. "It's okay. Whoever Leo wants, I'll talk the other one into it. I'm easy. I'll just take whoever's left." He then tagged both Linda and Jessica. The silence in the chat grew heavier. The next second, a notification popped up. "Leo Kane has left the group. I love hiking. I've had a weak constitution since I was a child, and my doctor always said I needed more exercise and fresh air. Later, with a professional's guidance, I chose this sport. At first, I couldn't make it to the summit. Linda and Jessica would take turns carrying me, cheering me on. Later, worried I'd get bored of the same views, they'd research unique mountains and rock formations, accompanying me to conquer different landscapes. Over the years, we'd hiked everywhere, from the Appalachians to the Rockies. We even created a shared photo album just for the hobby, a record of our good times together. There were candid shots of Linda looking miserable after falling into a mud puddle, a picture of Jessica holding up a snake she'd caught with her bare hands, a selfie of the three of us after being lost in the mountains for 3 days, so many photos all representing our past. But today, as I stared at the countless pictures in the cloud drive, I just felt empty. With a click of the mouse, I deleted them all, without a trace. I wanted a clean break from the past. I never expected that the next day, Linda and Jessica would show up at my house together. "Why did you delete all the photos? Leo, what's your problem? Are you really going to cut ties with us for good?" They questioned me in unison. I found it bizarre and gave them a strange look. I didn't want them anymore, so I deleted them. They were taking up space. Linda and Jessica both froze. There were over 200 gigs of photos in there. I had uploaded every single one, even painstakingly restoring old film photos from our early years. Now, I hadn't saved a single one and was dismissing it so lightly. Linda was the first to recover. "Leo, we were just angry last time. But with Howard in that condition, how could we just leave him?" Jessica's tone was defiant. "Why are you still trying to sweet-talk him? If he hadn't been such a bully, would Howard have left? Now he's just pulling these stunts for attention." Jessica had always been impulsive, and her face was flushed with anger. Linda bit her lip. She didn't scold me, but her face was also clouded with displeasure. She looked at me with disappointment. "Leo, you're both guys. Targeting Howard like this is just despicable." "Targeting him? When did I ever target Howard?" Sensing my confusion, Jessica scoffed. "You post that stuff online, you quit the group chat. You make everyone think Howard came between us. Isn't that targeting him? Leo, How can you be so petty? You were the one who said Howard had it rough and told us to take care of him. And now you're jealous of him. I finally understood. They thought the wedding invitation I posted online was just a ploy for attention. Seeing their entitled attitudes, I couldn't help but remember how, because of their constant attention, our parents would joke whenever our families met that I'd have to pick one of them as a daughter-in-law someday. In their eyes, was I nothing more than a trophy for one of them to win? And now that trophy had become Howard, and they expected me to bend over backward to win back their favor? In that moment, I was completely done. If that's what you want to think, there's nothing I can do, I said flatly, then told the housekeeper to show them out. The bonds of our youth could never be restored. They had finally become someone else's knights. Hearing me, Linda and Jessica's faces flashed with panic, as if they hadn't expected me to be so cold. Linda couldn't stop herself from stepping forward to grab my arm. Leo, we've known each other for so many years. Howard was right, he's here to join us, not break us up. Why can't you accept him? Howard's life is so hard. He's all alone in New York with no one to rely on. He's not like you, born with a silver spoon, who has everything. She spoke with deep emotion. All I felt was disgust. I never interfered with their friendships, and it wasn't like I hadn't introduced them to other good friends of mine before. But we never had problems then. Because back then, they wouldn't condemn me over someone else's words, they wouldn't blindly defend another person, and they certainly wouldn't leave me for dead on a mountain. Even after all that, all I did was choose to walk away. But they still wanted to drag me back into this four-way game I was so sick of. I looked at Linda's pleading eyes and heard Jessica's reluctant persuasion. Just apologize to Howard with us, and the four of us can be a family again. I couldn't take it anymore. I yanked my arm back forcefully and said to them coldly, "No, thanks. The three of you are better off together." Linda stumbled back, stunned. Jessica's face darkened. But before they could speak, their phones rang. They answered at the same time, and Howard's tearful voice came through the line. "Linda, Jessica, come back quick. I cut my hand trying to cook crab." Boo-hoo. One phone call from Howard, and Linda and Jessica were gone. As they left, they didn't even notice the festive decorations around the door or the wedding planning materials spread across the coffee table. Not long after, Howard's social media updated. It was a picture of Linda and Jessica's backs as they bustled around a kitchen, along with a selfie of Howard looking pitiful with a bandage on his finger. His caption read, "They told me a klutz like me should just sit on the couch and be pampered, but I don't want either of them to work so hard." The comments were a flood of envy, saying he was a master for getting two heiresses to cook for him, praising him for having them wrapped around his little finger. One anonymous comment stood out. "A poser is still a poser, no matter how hard you scheme to replace the real thing." And, of course, Howard replied, "That's a really mean thing to say. Does Leo know you talk like that?" I smirked, ignored it, and went back to my wedding preparations. The day I went for my suit fitting, my best friend, Mike, came with me. On the way, he asked if I was sure about this. "Leo, marriage is no joke. Don't just marry some random woman to spite Linda and Jessica." Mike was still fuming about what he'd seen online, especially Howard's latest post. His cheeks were puffed up like a blowfish. I poked one. "I've thought it through," I said with a smile. "I'll admit, over the years I had developed feelings for them. If it weren't for Howard, I might have actually chosen one of them. But it was Howard's arrival that made me see the truth. The affection they showed me could just as easily be given to someone else. The special treatment that was once mine alone could be shared. Linda and Jessica, neither of them was right for me. And my world didn't revolve around just the two of them." After hearing my explanation, Mike relaxed a bit. He slung his arm over my shoulder as we walked into the boutique, but the moment we stepped inside, both our faces changed. The suit I was trying on today was a custom piece the shop owner had specially ordered from overseas just for me. But now that priceless suit was on Howard. Linda and Jessica stood on either side of him, showering him with praise. They treated him like a precious gem, forgetting that the spotlight didn't belong to him. Mike couldn't hold back. He lunged forward, grabbed Howard by the tie, and yelled, "Stealing's a habit with you, isn't it?" Now you're stealing Leo's suit? You think you're worthy of wearing that? Howard cried out in pain. Linda and Jessica reacted instantly, shoving Mike away and pulling Howard behind them, their faces etched with concern. Do you have to be so dramatic? Howard's never worn a suit this nice before, so he wanted to try it on. It's just a piece of clothing. It's not going to fall apart. Exactly. Who are you to decide what happens to Leo's clothes? We've known him for years. Can't we even try on one of his suits? Leo, Howard has already forgiven you for how you treated him. Don't be so stingy. One after another, Linda and Jessica laid into me, their voices filled with self-righteousness. Mike was shaking with rage, as if he'd never encountered women like this before. My face was cold as I stared at Howard, who was now hiding behind them with red, swollen eyes. The suit he was wearing was a design I had spent days and nights finalizing with the tailor. Every detail was my own. But now I could see clear alterations at the waistline, a noticeable change to the collar, and a dark scuff on the trouser leg. My things had been tainted. I didn't want it anymore. Perhaps sensing my icy gaze, Howard looked up with a guilty expression and cautiously approached me to apologize. Mr. Kane, I'm so sorry. I grew up in the mountains. I've never seen a suit so expensive and handsome before. I didn't dare wear it at first, but Linda and Jessica said you wouldn't mind, Mr. Kane. And they really wanted to see what I looked like in a suit. As Howard spoke, his voice choked with emotion. His eyes welled up, and he tried to take my hand. Pulled away. The moment I did, he stumbled backward as if I had pushed him, falling to the ground. Howard! Linda and Jessica shouted in unison. In an instant, I was shoved aside. A sharp pain shot through my collarbone as my back slammed into something hard, forcing a pained grunt out of me. But Linda and Jessica didn't seem to notice. They rushed to help Howard up, then turned to yell at me furiously. Leo Kane, it's just a suit. You have so many designer clothes, what's the big deal if you give one or two to Howard? Howard's life is already so hard. Thanks to you, his dad lost his job and he has no money for school. Not everyone is born lucky like you. You are going to apologize to Howard right now. Jessica marched toward me, her face dark, and grabbed my arm. The movement sent another wave of pain through me. Get off.
I sidhed. Kicking out of here.
Mike jumped in to help, but the kick seemed to enrage Jessica. She gripped my wrist like a rabid bulldog, refusing to let go, hell-bent on forcing me to apologize to Howard today. Leo Kane, we've spoiled you rotten. It's made you arrogant and taught you to do nothing but bully the weak. Cold sweat poured down my face. The pain was so intense I couldn't speak. To make matters worse, Linda was chiming in from the side. Leo, you're going too far. First the invitation, now the suit. Jessica and I have let you have your fun. But this little game has to end now. She still thought my wedding was a sham. That's why she so casually let Howard wear my custom suit and alter my design. My arm hurt. My heart hurt more. Just as my vision started to go black from the pain, the pressure on my wrist suddenly vanished. The shadow in front of me was swept aside, and a cold, clear female voice echoed through the room. You two have some nerve, ganging up on my fiancé while I'm not around. I looked up, and my eyes met a beautiful but icy face. I felt an overwhelming sense of security. Victoria was the woman I was about to marry. She was also Linda's aunt. When I saw her at the arranged meeting my parents set up, my expression was probably just as shocked as Linda's and Jessica's were now. Victoria was 8 years older than me. When a 6-year-old me and Linda were clinging to each other, crying about not wanting to go to kindergarten, she was already representing our school at the National Math Olympiad and taking first place. When I was 15 and scheming with Jessica on how to score tickets to a huge concert, she was the concert's biggest sponsor, providing 3 front-row VIP tickets and a private car for us. Victoria and I were from 2 different worlds. But as we got to know each other, we were surprisingly compatible. She wasn't always present like Linda, or unconditionally supportive like Jessica. But no matter how busy she was, she never missed a single step of the wedding planning. And when our opinions differed, she didn't just blindly agree with me. Leo, the wedding is on a lawn. It really isn't safe for you to wear leather shoes with a heel. I've adjusted the schedule. The original plan was too packed. Your health isn't the best, and you'll be exhausted. And she remembered all my likes and dislikes. She knew I was allergic to peanuts, that I hated yellow roses, and that I loved sunsets. So she arranged every detail of the wedding to be exactly what I had dreamed of. Just like now, she stood protectively in front of me. Her gaze swept coldly over Linda and Jessica before landing on Howard in the suit, her brow furrowing. One look, one frown. Linda and Jessica panicked. They still seemed to be reeling from the shock of me marrying their aunt. When they finally processed it, Jessica was the first to cry out, "Leo Kane, you're really gonna marry her." Her angry voice trembled. Linda stood there, completely lost. She'd heard her aunt was getting married, but she never imagined it would be to me. Only Howard was still a bit confused. He looked between Victoria and me, his eyes darting back and forth and feigned surprise. "Mr. Kane, you're getting married? Then what about Linda and Jessica? I thought you were just pretending to get married. I mean, you and Linda and Jessica are so close." Howard cut himself off at the last second, but the implication hung in the air. I caught the flash of malicious calculation in his eyes, spreading rumors about me, Linda, and Jessica right in front of Victoria. Even they heard how wrong it sounded. They frowned at him, their faces showing their displeasure. Howard, realizing his mistake, covered his mouth, his eyes welling up with tears again. "Mr. Kane, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I've ruined your wedding plans. I'll take the suit off for you right now." He struck a pitiful pose, expecting Linda and Jessica to rush to his defense like they always did. But this time, neither of them moved. Their eyes were still fixed on me, as if they'd been hit by a sledgehammer, staring blankly. I couldn't be bothered with their drama. I called the shop owner over. "The suit is dirty," I said calmly. "I don't want it anymore." Before leaving, I quoted a price for the damages, then took Victoria's arm. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "This wasted your whole day." Victoria nodded, her expression unchanged. "I should be the one apologizing. You've been handling all the wedding preparations by yourself, and now you have to deal with this misunderstanding." She glanced over her shoulder. Linda and Jessica flinched. Their eyes were a mix of shock, frustration, regret, and pain, but that had nothing to do with me. The wedding was fast approaching, and Victoria only got busier. I was understanding and took over all the final arrangements. But just as everything was proceeding smoothly, Linda and Jessica started hounding me for no reason. They both tried to add me on every social platform. They bombarded my phone with calls from different numbers. Jessica even parked her car outside my house, ambushing me every time I came or went. "Leo, you can't marry her." That was all she ever said. And every time my reply was the same: "You're insane." It was like she had reverted to the time before Howard appeared, launching a fierce campaign to win me back, making public declarations online and sending flowers. Even the internet was eating up the drama. What's Miss Jessica up to? A few days ago, she was liking posts on the stand-in's account, and now she's back to fawning over her old flame? The online comments were snarky, but she paid them no mind. Linda, on the other hand, had been quiet, until the first time I attended a Lynn family dinner as Victoria's fiancé. She cornered me at the party. "Leo, I admit it. I lost." Linda looked at me with a tragic expression. In just a few days, she'd lost a lot of weight. When she saw I was about to leave, she blocked my path, her voice pleading. "Leo, Howard, he was just a way to make you jealous. I wanted you to care about me, to choose me over Jessica. I never liked him. The person I've always loved is you. Ever since I was 6. But then Jessica showed up. You two had so much in common, you clicked so well. Sometimes I felt like I didn't even belong. So I got scared. I was afraid you'd choose her. When Howard appeared, I deliberately competed with Jessica to show him attention, to make you jealous. I thought if Jessica fell for Howard, then no one would be competing with me for you." She poured her heart out, even holding out a small ring woven from grass, something from when we used to play house as kids. Her voice cracked. "Leo, I'm not like Jessica. The only groom I've ever wanted to marry is you." "Linda." I didn't take the toy she offered. Instead, I took a step back, my eyes meeting hers, my voice colder than I'd ever heard it. You and Jessica are no different to me. Linda froze, the color draining from her face. I admit, in the past, I had feelings for both of you. There were nights I'd lie awake, wondering who I could choose without hurting the other, and I wouldn't be able to sleep. I gave a bitter laugh. The feelings of youth. Being adored by two exceptional women. To say I only saw them as friends would have been a lie. But whether it was Linda, my childhood companion, or Jessica, my kindred spirit, I never wanted to hurt either of them. But they hurt me. The moment you left me alone on that mountain, both of you became strangers to me. So, whether you like Howard or not, whether you were using him or not, whether you love me or not, I don't want to know. I pushed the grass ring still clutched in her fingertips back towards her. Linda, I said, childhood promises don't count. Linda didn't bother me again. But Jessica persisted. As for Howard, his social media account went silent after that day at the boutique. Like an old toy, he had been cast aside by both Linda and Jessica. However, I didn't drop my demand for compensation. A short while later, I saw Howard and Jessica arguing outside my gate. Jessica, I can't find Linda. Can you please talk to Mr. Kane for me? That suit. I could work my whole life and never be able to pay for it. Mr. Kane is so rich, all his clothes are priceless. Why is he picking on a poor guy like me? And, Jessica, are you both abandoning me now? Howard's voice was choked with sobs, but Jessica had lost all her former patience. She smoked a cigarette, repeatedly dodging his attempts to grab her. Finally, she seemed to snap, yelling at him, "Get lost. If it wasn't for you, Leo wouldn't be ignoring us." Howard was stunned by her outburst. Seeing the disgust on Jessica's face, he completely lost control. "Jessica, you were the ones who told me to stay. Don't you have a responsibility to me? You're supposed to be good to me just like before. You're supposed to spoil me and protect me unconditionally." He couldn't accept it. It was like the little match girl seeing a beautiful vision, only to be plunged back into the cold, harsh reality. I watched them, perhaps sensing my gaze. They both looked over. The instant she saw me, Jessica shoved Howard violently to the ground and rushed toward me. "Leo, he's the one who won't leave me alone. I was being an idiot before. I thought using Howard would make you jealous. That's why I did all that crazy stuff." Her excuse was identical to Linda's. I remained expressionless, but Jessica swore to me it was the truth. The scene seemed to push Howard over the edge. I don't know where he got it, but he suddenly produced a knife and lunged straight at me. His face twisted in a vicious snarl. "Leo Kane, this is all your fault. Go to hell." My pupils constricted. As the cold tip of the blade rushed toward me, I felt the suffocating certainty of death. Howard went to prison. Jessica went to the hospital. She had jumped in front of me at the last second, taking the knife. Her right kidney was ruptured. After a night of observation in the ICU, she was moved to a private room. The first thing she did when she woke up was demand to see me. After some thought, I went. When I entered the hospital room, Linda was there too. She was sitting by the bed, peeling an apple for Jessica. Her face was just as pale. The moment she saw me, she dropped everything and stood up. "Leo, you're finally here." Jessica struggled to sit up. I walked a few steps closer, keeping my distance, and offered my thanks in a low voice. "Regardless of anything else, I should thank you. If it weren't for her, I'd be the one lying in that hospital bed." After a few seconds of silence, I took out an invitation and placed it on the bedside table. Nothing more needed to be said. But Jessica's face went white again. Her lips trembled as she watched me, and her eyes instantly turned red. After a long moment, she finally spoke, her voice hoarse. "Leo, can't we really go back to how things were before? Even just the three of us? I don't mind anymore. I really don't mind." By the end, Jessica was crying. Linda looked utterly defeated. The two of them, in that moment, looked like a pair of pathetic, lost puppies. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop, broken only by Jessica's sobs and Linda's heavy breathing. After a long time, I sighed and spoke clearly. Maybe this is for the best. Even without Howard, our friendship would have fallen apart eventually. No matter which one of you I chose, it would have been unfair to the other. It's better this way. We can all find our own peace. I meant every word. How many nights had I woken up from a nightmare where I'd chosen Linda or Jessica, only to see the other one leave in pain, leading to us never speaking again. Howard's arrival was a catalyst. It showed me Linda and Jessica for who they truly were, and it allowed me to completely withdraw from that chaotic relationship. Seeing that they wanted to say more, I held up a hand and, for the first time in a long time, gave them a small smile. If you're willing, come to my wedding. Have a drink. My wedding. Jessica came. She and Linda sat at the same table. They were quiet the whole time. The other people at their table were our old classmates, and no one dared to pressure them to drink. But they both ended up drunk anyway. Thankfully, they didn't cause a scene. As they were helping each other out the door, they saw me in my reception suit, Victoria's arm around my waist. They both stopped and just stared at me for a long time. I met their gaze, smiled slightly, and raised my glass to them. After the wedding was over, I received 2 text messages at the same time. From Linda and Jessica. Linda said, "Wishing you happiness." Jessica said, "I'll wait for you forever." I didn't reply. When I came out of the bathroom after showering, I saw Victoria staring at my phone screen, her expression unreadable. "What's wrong?" I asked, sitting down next to her while towel drying my hair. I followed her gaze and, seeing the unread messages, couldn't help but laugh. "Don't tell me," I teased, "you're jealous?" After months together, I was comfortable enough to joke with her. Victoria didn't get angry. Instead, she pulled me into her arms, her voice cool and proud. "Too foolish, immature girls are not worth my jealousy." I laughed harder, looking at the sharp contours of her face. In the warm orange light, her features were softer than during the day, yet they still held a depth that only came with time. On a whim, I thought back to our first meeting. I was completely disheartened back then, with a reckless, what's the worst that could happen attitude. I hadn't even shaved before meeting Victoria. I was distracted the whole time, making one mistake after another. I thought there was no chance. But on the way home, my mom told me that she was very pleased with me and hoped to get to know me better. I had asked her back then, too, why she chose me. Her answer at the time was, "I thought you were cute." I believed her then. But now, looking into Victoria's dark, ink-like eyes, I narrowed my own and playfully pinned her down on the bed. "Victoria," I said, trying to sound menacing, "are you telling me it was just a spur-of-the-moment thing at that meeting that we just clicked? Because I heard from my mother-in-law that your mom has a photo album, and it's full of pictures of a little boy in overalls who looks exactly like me when I was little." I stared at Victoria's face, keeping my expression neutral. But I noticed the tips of her ears turn a faint shade of red. After a long pause, Victoria spoke. "Only fools create unnecessary drama. A smart person knows when to seize an opportunity and press their advantage." Hearing that, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I buried my face in her shoulder and burst out laughing. And the night had only just begun. 5 years into our marriage, Victoria gave birth to a daughter. At the 1-month celebration party, Linda held her the entire time, refusing to let go. Later, Jessica came too with a huge cash gift. Over the years, our relationship has been distant. The kind where you might occasionally like each other's posts on your social feed. But that's it. After all, I could never get over them leaving me alone on that mountain. All these years, Jessica remained single. Linda, on the other hand, went from one boyfriend to the next, all different types, but never settled down. Her family went from being relieved to shaking their heads in dismay. At the party, we talked a little about the old days. Suddenly, Jessica asked me, "Leo, if Linda and I hadn't been so stupid back then, would things have turned out differently?" Jessica had changed a lot over the years, becoming much more mature, but her eyes still held the same deep, persistent affection when she looked at me. I met her gaze calmly, holding my daughter, the picture of contentment. Not necessarily, because she would have made her move sooner or later. "And you too," I said, "were never a match for her." Jessica's perspective. When I was 15, I transferred to a school in LA. The first time I heard the name Leo Kane, it was from someone else. Not playing ball again today. Nope, Leo's waiting for me. When Linda said that, she had the dopiest grin on her face. It made me curious. Who was this Leo Kane, this Kane family heir everyone at school was whispering about? So one day, out of curiosity, I went with Linda to the school gate. One look. I was done for. Leo. He really was a prince among men, impossibly handsome. And he loved adventure, astronomy. It was like I had found my soul's muse. But as we all spent more time together, I could feel Linda's hostility. She liked Leo too. Of course she did. They were childhood sweethearts, friends since they were 6. In this relationship, I was the outsider, the intruder. So Linda and I got into a fight. A bad one. We both ended up in the same hospital room for 2 weeks. That time, Leo's eyes were red with anger. He sat between our beds, his voice hoarse, yelling first at me, then at her. He finally threatened that if we ever hurt ourselves like that again, he would cut ties with both of us for good. Hearing that, I was actually pretty happy, because he yelled at me first. After that, Linda and I reached an unspoken agreement. We wouldn't fight in front of Leo, but in private, we were rivals. Everyone could see we both liked Leo, and Leo knew it too. I could feel him carefully trying to maintain a balance between the three of us, not wanting to hurt either of us. But I also knew the truth. This relationship of ours, one of us would eventually have to leave. I didn't want it to be me, and neither did Linda. Later, we both decided independently to break that balance. We used the housekeeper's son, that outsider, to create the illusion that we were both betraying Leo. We wanted to force his hand, make him choose. I don't think I was being cruel. Leo was just too kind. The first time I saw Howard, I knew he was a schemer. And sure enough, it wasn't long before he was trying every trick in the book to charm us and drive a wedge between the three of us. But Linda and I just went along with it. But then we took it too far. Neither of us ever imagined that, in Leo's heart, this wasn't a choose one of two game. He disqualified both of us at the same time. And no matter how hard I tried afterward, I could never win him back. All these years, I've never been able to let go. I know Linda hasn't either. Even with her constantly changing boyfriends, it's just a way of lying to herself. I looked down on it, but I also desperately hoped that if I just held on, I might get another chance. That lasted until I attended the party for Leo's daughter. I asked the question that had been buried in my heart for so many years. I wanted to know, if I hadn't been so stupid back then, would he have chosen me? He smiled, and he gave me his answer. It was only in that moment that I truly understood. In Leo's heart, Linda and I really were the same. He might have felt something, but it was never enough to make him fall in love. Some things, some destinies, they're just meant to be.